Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. How is everyone doing? How has your April been going so far? I don't know if you guys have listened to the April energy forecast. As I'm recording this, it is currently April the 8th. And boy, is the energy forecast proving to be true for me. The theme being hiccups, which is such a funny one, but really just the feeling of expecting the unexpected to happen and plans going awry and just being flexible this month. And I definitely am experiencing that energy. It seems like anything I schedule is getting rescheduled this month, which is just really interesting and definitely a lot of unexpected things coming my way and popping up. And if you're feeling like that's the case for you this month already, then I really want to encourage you, at least because this is what I've been doing, is that if anything pops up that feels unexpected, but it triggers you in some way, if it causes some sort of emotional upheaval, I want you to see this as an opportunity of something needs to be shed here, right? I'm not showing up as my most aligned self. There's a part of me that I have not let go of. There is something that I need to release or dig into and look at and heal. And that's really what I've been getting into the energy of this month. So anytime there's been something unexpected, either I'm feeling really at peace with it and going, it's fine. It's the way it's meant to be. I know I'm being divinely guided and can just feel completely at peace with it. And other ones that are popping up in my path and reframing it to if it feels frustrating or it feels exhausting or whatever it is, this is happening for me, not to me. And how can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And that has really been a nice, helpful reframe for me to just keep digging into how can I learn from this? What is coming up here that is coming to the surface that really needs to be looked at? Is there anything left over from the repair that I did in March that maybe hasn't been healed yet? And I also want to add here, is there a physical sensation that you're feeling in your body that comes up with the emotion that is triggered when the unexpected happens? Do you feel a tightness in your throat or a throbbing in your chest or a pain in your solar plexus? If you're not sure what it is that's coming to the surface or what needs to be healed, what old wound is popping back up to say hello that you thought you healed, talk to that piece of your body. If it feels tight in your throat or tight in your chest or prickly in your solar plexus or your stomach, take a moment to close your eyes and take a deep breath. And this is such a beautiful exercise in intuitive development. Additionally to healing is to connect with that piece of your body, connect with that feeling. And if you close your eyes for a moment, you can almost create a clairvoyance exercise and visualize in your mind, what does that sensation look like? Could you give it a color? Could you give it a shape? Could you give it a texture? Could you give it a sensation, right? And just add all of the adjectives to it until this sensation that you feel in your physical body has a character to it, if you will. And then go ahead and talk to that part of your body. Talk to your throat or your chest or your stomach and ask it directly, what's coming on? What do you need me to know? What's the emotion that wants to come up? I guess the best question is, why are you hurting? Right? What do you want to share? What do you need to say? Just talk to that part of your body. And as woo-woo as that sounds, I've done this many times. And when I talk to that piece of my body, there's usually, when you ask it, when you ask your throat or your chest or your stomach, what do you need to know? Or what do you need me to know? Or what do you want to say? The raw feeling really comes out. And sometimes it sounds like I'm scared or I'm hurting or I'm angry. And then you can go, okay, so this is the emotion here. What are you angry at? And then if you close your eyes and then just allow the vision that wants to come through in your mind, it's wild that part of your body can pinpoint for you and show you exactly the point in your timeline that is being triggered in this moment. So whenever I've done this, let's say I was feeling a knot in my throat, right? I could close my eyes and I could see that it's green and it's tight and it's flashy and it's angry, right? And or maybe it's sad, I don't know, but I can see it as a shape, right? Sometimes it's this round green knot, and I can look at it and ask it. And if I say, what is it that you're feeling? What's wrong? And if it says I'm angry or I'm scared, and then I can say, okay, where does this come from? The vision will pop up in my mind's eye, and it'll direct me to a specific moment in my childhood that I didn't even know was there, was still sitting there waiting to be healed. Maybe something that happened when I was 9 years old, a conversation I had with another kid that hurt my feelings that I never understood how to process, or something that particularly scarred me in high school, or whatever it was that just got glossed over because when I was a child, I didn't have the tools to heal it. So it just got suppressed. And now it's being triggered now when something unexpected is happening. So then I can look at that and actually then reframe the visualization. If I'm seeing the replay of what is happening in my mind's eye of what happened back then as a child, I can then take that scene and rewrite the story in my mind. And no, guys, here's the magic part. Your mind, your subconscious mind, doesn't have the capacity to distinguish between reality and imagination. Yes, our logical brain can do that for us, but if through visualization, you can visualize something and your brain will recognize it, or your subconscious will recognize it as memory, as reality. So if you then look at that story, that thing that happened when you were 5 years old, and you rewrite the story in your mind, you create a new movie in your mind, you create a new picture, it's as if you rewrote the memory, and your body will receive that healing. It's as if it never happened, and you can literally reprogram your mind, your memory, your subconscious just by doing this. So I really want to encourage you that as you go through this sort of bumpy month of April, as triggers come up, connect with your body, connect with your intuition, do this exercise in visualization, and then rewrite the story. You have the power to rewrite the memory, literally, so that you can step forward as the most aligned, confident, empowered version of yourself. And I've been doing this a lot this month because I can't believe it's only the 8th and so many unexpected things have popped up in just the last week. It's crazy. And anytime it's triggered me, sometimes I'm just okay with it, right? Little things like a friend canceled or whatever, those things don't seem to bother me. But there have been some things that have been bigger and a lot more unexpected and a little bit more jolting and jarring. And when those things happen, I'm really going back and seeing, why is this triggering me? Where in my childhood have I been not healed? And or where in my story have I not stood up for myself, or whatever it was? And then go and rewrite that story for yourself and send healing to that part of your body. And guys, it's so magical. And I do want to say, every single time I've done this exercise, and this is not the point of doing this exercise, it's just an observation that I have. Every single time I've done this particular exercise where I talk to a piece of my body and then rewrite the memory, and offer healing to a past version of myself, I end up manifesting a crazy amount of money the next day. I don't know why. I don't know why it happens that way. And it's usually like money that comes out of nowhere, money that's unexpected. It just shows up in my bank account, shows up in my inbox, things that I'm not expecting. So either like a client will buy a huge package, or I'll get back pay from something that I didn't even know I was owed money on, or whatever it is. And so I always say that even if the pursuit of the reason that you're doing the healing work is for the end goal and the end result, which is maybe I'll manifest a huge pile of money, it's fine because you're doing the healing anyway, right? You're getting to heal. And so who cares why you're doing it, as long as you're doing it and then you become the better version, the most aligned, peaceful version of yourself. And so I say go for it. If you need the dangling carrot, use it, right? And see if it works for you. And then definitely reach out to me and let me know if doing this healing work did also allow you to manifest a little bit of money in your pocket. Certainly doesn't hurt. And so that brings us actually to today's episode. I know that sounds like quite a segue, but we actually do end up talking a lot about this in today's episode. And I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest, which is the beautiful, the magical Ashlee Young. Now, Ashlee started out as a client of mine, and that's how she and I met. But as we started to work together over time, we have since been working together, and she has become my business coach because, boy, you guys are going to learn, she's such a magical, powerful manifester herself. And she's a very talented pianist and piano coach, and has made miracles happen in her business and done really amazing things. And so I couldn't imagine anyone else to help me walk me through growing my own business. And so we've been working together in that capacity. But we've also worked together and done a swap of our talents. And so I'm now also coaching her in intuitive development. So we just go back and forth on helping each other. And that's really why I wanted to have her on the podcast, because Ashlee is just such a shining example of a regular person who did the work, who went through a spiritual awakening, a slow one that happened over time, and then started to dig into all things woo, if you will, all of the spiritual things. And she did inner child healing, and she did shadow work, and she did manifestation. Oh boy, is this woman really, really talented at manifestation. And now she's dipping her toes into her intuitive development. And we've discovered that it didn't take long, because as I tell you guys, your intuition is always there and it's a muscle. It doesn't disappear. You're born with the muscle. The question is, are you willing to strengthen it? And even in just a couple of weeks of working together, Ashlee is full on channeling for other people. She is able to channel people's loved ones with ease. And now she's channeling spirit guides. She even channeled my spirit guides this past week, with so much talent. And yeah, so she's going to share a little bit of her intuitive development journey for you guys and what that has been like. And we talk about so many things. Ashlee is now a good friend of mine. And so we do geek out on all of the spiritual things. We definitely touch on manifestation and the manifestation practices that have worked for both of us and not worked. And we dive into some of that, and we talk about what it feels like to go through an intuitive development journey and what it can feel like on the other side of it if you just stick with it for even just a couple of weeks, how easy it can be to open that up. So I'm so excited for you guys to meet Ashlee. But before we dive into this week's episode, as I mentioned on last week's episode, we are having a contest right now, which is that I'm really needing your guys' help to get this podcast out there. And I need your help to rate and review the podcast. And anybody who gives my podcast a 5-star rating and then writes a review, if you screenshot the review and then send it to me either via DM on Instagram or to my email, I will put you in the running to win a free access to my course, Meet Your Spirit Guides, my signature course. And so many of you have listened, and you sent me your 5-star reviews, and I really appreciate you doing that. I do want you to know that I have picked a winner for this week, but even if you didn't get it this week, it doesn't mean that you're out of the running for next week, because I know that we can only write, especially on Apple Podcasts, you can only write one review. So once you're in the running, you're in the running. And I've just been writing all the little names and putting names into a hat and picking one out. So your name is still in the pot as long as you write me the review and send it to me, and you will be eligible for every drawing that we do. So this week's winner goes to, dun, da, da, da. Her name is Allison Welton. Allie, thank you so much for writing such a beautiful review. And her 5-star review writes, inspirational. I'm always looking forward to the next episode. Jessica is a natural teacher and full of shared experiences, lessons learned, and personal growth opportunities. She has opened a door for me and been easy and fun to listen to. I am grateful for the life-changing sessions I've had with her and hope to keep learning, exploring, and connecting even more through her show. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Allison, for such a beautiful 5-star review. And I'm going to send you a message, an email with the full lifetime access to my Meet Your Spirit Guides course. I really appreciate that beautiful review. And if you want to be the next person to win free access to my course, then definitely send me a message either at I am Jessica Rachel or to my email, jessicarachel.snyder@gmail.com with a screenshot of your 5-star review, and you could be the next winner. So thank you, Allison. And without further ado, I can't wait to introduce you to the beautiful, lovely Ashlee Young. See you guys on the other side. Enjoy the episode. Welcome, Ashlee, to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah. And so I want to just start, we're going to dive in and talk about all of the things and introduce you and who you are and what you do. But really, the main reason that I wanted to have you on this podcast is, number one, you and I have been working together for a couple of years now. At first in the client-student basis, right? Where you were my client and now you're my business coach. But I also like to think that over time we become friends as well. And we definitely geek out on all of the things, spiritual development and all the woo-woo things and all of the personal development type things. And that's why I really wanted to call you in and do a podcast together because I think there's nobody else that I would rather geek out about this stuff with. We have so much in common and it's so fun. So, yeah, thanks for coming and doing this with me.
Yes, of course. I'm so excited to be here. I think it's so true. It's been such a journey and you've been such a big part of that journey. So I just can't wait to chat with you more about it. Anytime I get to talk to you is
Yeah.
so fun.
I know, we have a good time. So let's start though by introducing you to the audience because you are a very multifaceted and very talented individual. And
Well,
so
thank you.
let's go to your horn a little bit. Can you share with the audience sort of what you do and yeah, all of the things that you are into at the moment?
Sure. Yeah. My job is that I call myself a piano coach. So I'm a coach for adult piano players that want to learn how to really connect with like their emotions and their inner world and be able to express that through music. And so for me, that looks like launching courses. I have a YouTube channel, all of that good stuff, all of the online stuff. I also work with service-based entrepreneurs who are looking to grow online and be able to monetize what they're doing more online. My motto that started as a piano thing, but now has really like branched out to everything that I do is like how to work smarter, not harder. And so I help adult piano players do that in their piano practice. And then I help business owners do that with their content and with their courses and things like that. I'm also a mom to a 5-year-old girl, and she is amazing and adventurous and just so full of life and joy. And so I spend all of my time with her when I'm not working. And then there's this whole other spiritual side of stuff that's been going on for many years. And so I'm in the last couple years, it's been like integrating all of that because I feel like I have all of these like random little pieces that have been coming together.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And it's so great because, first of all, like you're an amazing business coach. I wouldn't work with
Thank you.
anybody else. And you have helped my business just get, I think you said it so well, like just get to a place where it's so much more efficient. And there's really this feeling of buying your time back, right? Of like doing
Yes.
things, again, work smarter, not harder. And that's been so helpful, especially for moms where our time is so limited to the actual hours that we can focus on work and for me as a homeschooling mother where my kids never leave that's a whole other thing. So it's really about the efficiency piece. So you've been
Yeah.
so integral in helping me do that. But I want to kind of dial back a little bit because yes, like you've been going on I would say a really intensive spiritual journey over maybe the last few years, if not a little longer. But I actually want to go back a little further. What did your childhood look like? Was spirituality a part of it? What was your journey that maybe led you to having maybe a spiritual awakening? And then what did that spiritual awakening look like for you?
How much time do you have? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. I will give you the Reader's Digest version. So I was raised in like a very religious and a very conservative religion with a lot of limitations placed on me from a very early age. And so it was an interesting way to be raised because on the one hand, there were so many limitations and so many, this is bad, this is good, like black and white thinking type of a thing. But on the other hand, there was like that deep and profound connection to some version of spirit, right? And I could sense that from a young age. I also had some really interesting experiences as a kid where I always felt like people were watching me. And my dad remembers it so vividly because I would cry and scream and be like, you have to come in my room, look in all the closets, look under the bed. There's something watching me. You know what I mean? And I think obviously looking back now, like I can see, I think I was like maybe sensing spirit or whatever, but my family didn't know what to do with that. And because I didn't really have any information about that, I internalized that as like a lot of fear because no one could really explain to me. And it was more of, you're so sensitive, like just stop. There's nothing there, as opposed to exploring that with me or trying to help me understand. I think I've been aware of like spirituality for a long time. As a kid, I was very into magic. I was very into fairies and like this idea that you could manipulate your reality for the better. I loved that idea even as a kid. And then I had a couple experiences as a teenager too, like where I saw spirits like sitting at the edge of my bed and things like that and just didn't know what to do with them. So when I was in my early 20s, I was still having that feeling of I could sense. It's almost like I think I was telling you it was like some people would like knock on my door, right? Just knock on my head door, like on my brain. It felt like people were like knocking on my brain, like, hey, or I could feel things in the room. And so when I was in my early 20s, I actually said out loud one time, I was like, I'm done. Stop. Whatever's here, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want anything to do with this. Stop, because it was so fear filled for me. And so at that point, like it did stop all through childhood and through high school. My family kind of joked that I was like the family psychic. There were many instances of like me saying, I think this is the truth here. And it would be the truth, right? That nobody else was able to see in that moment. And so then I had one kind of like pinnacle experience that I'll share that I guess was kicking off like this most recent wave of spiritual journey that has led to a lot more depth, which is that I went through a divorce and I started like reading about manifestation. My segue into manifestation was like very synchronistic and not on purpose. I actually recommended or I asked for recommendations about business books, and someone recommended, oh, I don't know if I can say the title, Riches F word.
Oh,
Which is done by Amanda Francis. Yeah. And
okay.
I was thinking I was picking up like a business finance book, right? Because that it was in a business group, a business Facebook group. And so I read it and I was like, what? What is all of this? And I remember in her book, she was like, I can't tell you how many times that someone reads this book and then they write to me and say, right after reading this book, this amount of money came in. And I just remember thinking like, okay, that would be really cool if this was true, but that sounds crazy. And then the exact thing happened. It's like I finished reading the book and a week later I got back pay from a job that I didn't even have anymore, that they realized like for a whole semester they were underpaying me these classes I was teaching, and I got like $1,200 in the mail. And I was like, okay.
So cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so then I started like reading about manifestation and I was like really diving in fast and like going hard. I got oracle decks. I started like researching spirit guides and all of this stuff. And around that same time, I had this dream, and my grandmother had already passed away. And I had a dream where she came to me in the dream and she said, "It's okay. I know that your grandfather's not here anymore, but everything is going to be okay." And he was still alive. And so I was like, that's
Oh.
very odd. And she was there, and I was like in their house and I was crying, and they played a really big role in my life. And so I like spent a lot of time in their house. And then not that day, but the next day, my grandfather very unexpectedly passed away. And he was like in the pinnacle of health. Like he was not sick. He was totally healthy, driving around, living alone, like very healthy. And he had gone in for a very routine operation where they had to put him under anesthesia. And he ended up going into cardiac arrest from the anesthesia and not waking up. Yeah. And so that really it felt like a call to me, because all of these experiences that I had in childhood and like all of this stuff that had happened, that had been happening my whole life, I was okay. This just, I don't know, it just felt too profound to ignore. It felt too profound to ignore. So
Yeah.
that's when I started diving a little deeper and I started researching how to connect to your spirit guides, which is I think eventually where I found you, and how to I was like, I've always been very interested in mediumship, but I've always been also very afraid up until very recently. And so I never wanted to explore that. Yeah. So that's how I got to this most recent dive into spirituality, which has been the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much I want to pull out here.
I know that I'm like that didn't feel like the Reader's Digest version.
No, it's good. It's perfect because we can bounce off from this. But so the first thing I want to ask though is what strict religion were you raised in? Was it Catholic or?
I was raised in Mormon.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
that. Okay. Yeah. So I can understand how that would be very strict.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Okay. Interesting. And then the other piece, this dream piece, like that's huge. That's monumental. And it's so interesting because I just did an episode last week or the week before, depending on when this episode comes out, all about dreams, right? And all
Mhm.
about how dreams aren't typically prophetic, right? They don't typically predict the future, but it can be a place where our loved ones come and visit us. And it sounds like your grandmother had already passed. She was visiting you and giving you a prediction at the same time. So
Yes.
that is like 2 in 1.
Yeah, it felt very profound. Like I woke up the next day and was like, okay, I'm gonna pretend that didn't happen because I didn't want that to be true. Like he wasn't, and it didn't make sense because he wasn't dead. And then the next day I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Wow, that's so crazy. And like that is something so much to the point where you can't ignore it and you have to go, yes, everybody jokingly calls me the psychic, but am I?
Mhm. And that's what it was. It was, okay, what if all of this isn't about fear? What if there's something, it felt like there was something much bigger and much more meaningful, and that like I couldn't ignore it anymore, like you said.
Yeah. So then I guess this is a question. I think this is something that comes up for a lot of people when we go through a big life change. Like for you, what is probably a divorce, right? That was rug pulled out from under me, like needing to seek out new things and find other ways of pivot into a more aligned reality. And then you start to develop this new interest, which maybe had been there all along, but now is coming back with a vengeance. Was there a point where you were having an identity crisis of, or even to the point where I'm really excited about all of these things, but maybe can't necessarily share it with the people around me, or scared to even claim to other people that you're taking these deep dives?
Oh yeah.
How did that feel like?
Totally. Yes. And I think especially early on when I was like reading up everything I could on manifestation and like diving into that world, but I wasn't necessarily like actually, or I didn't feel like I was actually manifesting. It was like I was just interested in the idea. I didn't tell anyone about it. I was totally like in the spiritual closet, like doing this all on my own. It felt like it was very much like a separate part of my identity of something that I explored by myself. And then I eventually started talking about manifestation more. But then more recently, like I've been practicing mediumship readings. And that too has been something that I was so afraid to tell my family, like so afraid. And I remember you and I had a session where you were actually doing a reading for me and you said, your next level of success actually doesn't come until you're more open about what you're doing. And so I like told my dad, and that was the scariest one because he's always been like the biggest skeptic of the family. When I told my mom and I told my siblings, and then I started just mentioning it to friends. And there were some friends where it was really easy to talk to because at this point now I've made more spiritual friends. But then there were some friends that it was way more terrifying to share it with. So I still feel like I'm not like through that. Like it's not the people that come to me for piano coaching, they don't know. And so it's not like everyone in the world knows, but I definitely feel like I'm on more of the side of people knowing as opposed to the other side now.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be like a slow unfolding, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I also wanna say that there's something to be said about using discretion depending on who you're working with, right? I know even now, sometimes just for kicks, when somebody asks me, "What do you do?" I'll just go, "I'm a psychic medium," and see what their reaction is, if I just to see if it's gonna scare them or whatever. Because I've gotten to a point where comfortable. But if this is like someone that potentially maybe we're going to be socializing with more, and I can sense that they're going to be very uncomfortable with it, and it's unavoidable that we're going to be interacting, then usually I'll give another answer.
Yeah,
Right? Oh,
totally.
I'm a life coach. And it's a journey. And I hope that at some point I'll get to a point where I don't care how uncomfortable you are with what I do. I'll be like, I don't give an ass. Like, this is what I do. Love me or hate me. But I'm not even fully there. And
Mhm.
so there's something to be said about it's a journey and not to beat yourself up about it. And it is also really nice to, when you do start to share with the people who mean the most to you, like your family members, and see that it's actually more well received than you made it up to be in your head. You're going, oh, like this wasn't as big of a deal as I thought it was.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did
Like
you
I
have anyone in your life go, oh my God, like this is terrifying. Don't do this. I'm worried about your safety or something like that? No.
no, I didn't, which was really good. And I think like it's my family doesn't ask me about it all the time, but they were like, "Oh, cool. Have fun." Like they were it was very much like a positive reaction and some of them had questions, but none of it was fear-based and none of it was like, "Don't talk to me about this," or "You shouldn't be doing that." It was all very well received.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would say even for me, it was very similar. Some of my family members, that's cool. I'm glad it's fun for you, but let's not talk about it. I had a
Mhm.
couple of my siblings and my dad were like, "That's great. I'm happy you're happy, and I'm not going to stop you, but maybe don't share that at the dinner table."
Yeah.
And then there was like the other side, like my mom and my grandmother, "Can I have a reading?"
Yes.
So there was
Yes, I've
like
had that
right down
too.
the middle
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
there. So there is that. But that's wonderful. I'm glad that you didn't get too much negative pushback. And I do want to underline that sort of for our listeners. Like, it's okay to come out of the spiritual closet. Like, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get pushback. Instead, you're going to get like a very positive reaction, right?
Mhm.
Or somebody going, "You too? I've been doing this. I've been looking for someone to talk to about this."
That's been the coolest part, I think, is like friendships that I didn't necessarily feel that depth there. I think just showing up more authentically because it's something that I'm so excited about and because it's become such a big part of my world, it gives other people to do like permission to do the same. And so I've actually had a lot more friends like now I feel like deepen their spiritual practice or be more open with me about it because I took that first step towards them of being like, you might think I'm crazy, but and they were like, "No, actually, I'm doing this and I'm doing this." And it's allowed for like a new level of sharing.
Yeah, for sure. And then it is just such an indication of how much of a light worker that you are, because usually if your destiny, if your intention or you're intended to be here as a light worker, or even just someone who's supposed to be the lighthouse, the leader, that is the thing. Like, we always, somewhere in our contract and coming down here, we sign that contract saying, I'm going to go first. I'm going to be
Mhm.
the one who leads the way. And as hard as that is, right, you then see the effect of it when you do go first. It opens up the pool for everybody else. And so you're seeing that, I think. And
Oh, cool.
I do, there's two ways or things I really want to talk about while we have you here. One is
Okay.
you have manifested some really crazy things. Like, you really I'm like, I don't think I've met anybody who's really done manifestation where it's, like, in real time, you see it happen, and I even remember our very first spiritual guidance session together where you're like, "Yeah, and just started diving into you were so casual about it too. You're like, "I just started diving into manifestation, and I was, like, doing this, like, writing practice, and then, yeah, I, like, made $5,000 in one day," or I think it was, like, $10,000, and I was like, "What? You did what?" And you were so casual about it. And I was like, I need to figure out what she's doing. So I would love if you could share a little bit more about some of the manifestation practices that you have tried and tested and what has worked for you, what has not worked for you. And yeah, what does that kind of look like? And then please, if you're not too shy to share about it, what have you manifested? Because holy, like, I'm always in
Okay.
awe of the things you call in.
Okay. Yeah. This is such a funny question because I've never really thought about, okay, I've tried everything. When it comes to manifestation, I've tried everything. And I think like writing down 33 times, 3 days, like I used to do that a lot. Journaling, there was a long period of my journey, and this one was actually very helpful where every single morning I would journal like a day in my future self. So 10 years into the future, and I would journal like as if it was happening right now. And that I think really helped me anchor into the reality I wanted to create. But also what happened when I practiced that was it actually allowed me like the space to be fully honest with myself about what I wanted. Like things would come through that I didn't realize I wanted. And that I think I couldn't like logically speak out loud, but that came through in that journaling. So that one was really profound. And then honestly, more recently in the last couple of years, I've started really using the moon. And so, like, I have some pretty great practices, and I'll do them with my daughter if she's with me or by myself, but where I basically like new moon is all about setting intentions, and full moon is all about releasing what no longer serves. And they end up being for me like actually really similar. It's just like the new moon is like the positive of it. So, what do I want? And then the full moon is sometimes like the same version, but just like the negative shadow side that I want to release, or the things that I feel like are getting in my way. And that has been very profound for me because it's allowed me to really tune into my energy and like cycle syncing and just being aware of like my own energetic flow in a different way. So I hope that doesn't sound like too not concrete, but that's like honestly what it's been more recently. But like I've done like I can't even think of them anymore, but I've done all the things, like, all of the things that they say you can do. I feel like I've tried them all. But for me, there's something energetic about money. And I think that's what really resonated with me when I first read Rich as Fuck by Amanda Frances. Is she said like talks about money as just another energy. Time is an energy. Everything is energy, and we can manipulate that energy. And there's something about it's funny because I joke and I'll say money was my gateway to my spiritual journey, which isn't totally true. But there's something about like manifesting money in particular, and it sounds shallow, and it's not. There's something about that is very important to my journey, and I think to my soul's journey. And you've even said that, like my spirit guides have told me that. They just haven't told me like why, but I know that to be true, and I think it's just the most like immediate and concrete and real life way that I can like manifest things in the 3D, if that makes sense. Like I've been pretty decent at just pretty quickly manifesting money. And that's been since I was a kid. Like I started babysitting for money when I was 9. And I felt that connection of, oh, this is a way I can like really not power in a negative way, but like I have power. Like I am able to do this thing and get money for it, do this thing and get money for it. So I hope that answers your question. I hope there were some tangible things
It
in there.
does, but then
Yeah.
that leads me to the bigger question because I'm sure everybody's now sitting on their edge of their seat going, "Wait, do what thing and money?"
Yes.
Oh, so what is the ritual
Okay.
look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. I guess just getting really clear on what I want. And honestly, for me, so I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of journaling. That's always been like the way that was the first way I could communicate with my guides the clearest. That's also been, like I said, the journaling is like how my truth comes through. And so writing things down of what is it that I want and getting very specific. But when I'm doing this and I don't follow like it's more free flow for me. So it would be like maybe some journaling and then like at the end of 2 pages, I'll get like the one sentence of, okay, this is what it is and this is what I want to manifest. But for me, there's also, and I think this is true for everyone, and in the last couple of years, there's like a tuning in because if I'm trying to force something or if it's not ultimately for my highest good, it's not going to come in. So it's so funny to hear you say you've manifested so much because it's so true. But there's been so many things I haven't manifested, or I've manifested a big number, but it's been like not the number I wrote down. And so I don't have as many of those crazy stories that I've heard people say of to the dollar amount or to the cent amount. Like it was exactly, I manifested a bigger number than I ever thought I ever would. but it wasn't as big as the number I wrote down, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so you get really clear on what you want and then what you just like surrender and
I
let
write it down
yeah.
and then I affirmations and like really honestly, like I look to people and I think this is something I've realized might be unique, so maybe it's helpful for your listeners, but I look to every single expander. So I find the people that have done it before me and I look to them as inspiration. If they can do this, I can do this. If they can do this, I can do this. This is their reality. Why would it not be my reality? And like
Yeah.
really leaning into that feeling of just like it already is. And then the other thing that I do too, and this is something that I'll do is I'll lay in meditation and I imagine like the past versions of me, which is childhood or whatever versions come up. I imagine them already knowing that I have it, if that makes sense. And so it's this really interesting practice of I'm in the present moment because I'm meditating, but I'm also integrating like the past versions and the future versions of me. Of I already knew as a kid I would have this. There's a version of me that already has this, and it can be in like it's right now in the present, if that makes sense.
That's a really powerful. I'm going to use that.
Yeah, I love that one because it feels like when I'm in when I'm like doing it and it's just sitting in silence, it's like what is time of integrating all three versions, past, present, and future.
And then you drop them into the present if you
Mhm.
bring
And I'll visualize, like, my childhood self, like, getting emotional, like, "Gosh, that's so cool, like, when I'm this age, I have this thing." And then I'll visualize myself in the future and try in my head, I guess I'd visualize as them, like, literally merging together. All of that energy comes together right now in the present.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And that probably releases so much resistance because often when we're trying to do like manifestation practices, it is our younger self that's creating the resistance, right? Because our
Mhm.
younger self is that's not safe. You don't know what happens on the other side of that. But what if people make fun of me?
Yes.
Like whatever it is, right? That's where the healing has to happen. So if you're visualizing and all like almost recalibrating the younger version of you in the and in the same time as it happening in the future, like then it like just moves the whole thing forward that much faster. Yeah.
Totally. And then more recently, I've been doing To Be Magnetic, which I know I think I've heard you mention on the podcast, and that's been really helpful too because they have meditations that take you through shadow work and through, like, different parts of yourself, and so really releasing the fears, like you just said. I think a lot of the times, like, people will say, "How did you do this in business?" And I'm like, "It was all about overcoming my own brain." And, like, exactly what you said, like, overcoming the fear of having it, overcoming the fear of not being worthy of it, like, that I really do believe that is where most of the work is believing that you deserve it and believing that you are worthy of it. The quote that I love that I don't even remember who originally said it, but it's like, "You don't ever manifest the things you want, you manifest the things you think you deserve."
Mm. Yes.
Yeah.
Highlight and underline that. That's
Yes.
so true. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do, just for the podcast listeners who are like, what's to be magnetic? Because I don't know if I have. And Ashley and I
Okay.
did bond over this. To be magnetic is a manifestation. So it's a woman named Lacey Phillips. She has a podcast called The Expanded Podcast and a program called To Be Magnetic. And it's all about manifesting. And honestly, it's so funny because you said, the pursuit of money for you was almost like your key to spiritual growth. And it's so funny because for me, I almost think that the pursuit of money for me was my key to healing my childhood, which
Oh.
is so interesting, right?
That totally
So
makes sense.
I loved the To Be Magnetic work and I did all of her workshops for 2 full years. I dove in deep, right? And at
Mhm.
the time it was in the pursuit of money. Like I was starting a business and trying to build it up to a place where I could quit my teaching job. Just so desperate for it to be a thing. And in pursuit of that, I was like, this was better than any talk therapy I'd ever done because you literally go in and you reprogram through hypnosis, or she calls them deep imagining, and reprogram things that kind of have changed your story and your level of self worth from the past. And I don't know that I definitely manifested some things in doing her program. I don't know that I ever manifested like big things, right? Like, I don't think that any of the big things on the list came through, but some of those things happened actually after I stopped doing the work and started to find my own way into manifestation, like the things that fully were for me. But the level of self worth, I don't think that it would have happened if I didn't have that foundation. And
Totally.
I think that there's really something to be said. You said it so beautifully that like manifestation definitely has a lot to do with what you feel you deserve. And then if you want to even double click on that, it's your level of self worth, right?
Mhm.
Do you feel worthy of that thing? Do you feel worthy inherently? Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't have to be a good person or a bad person to manifest things. It's like, how much do you think you're worth? right?
Totally. And the other thing that I've heard, and forgive me because I don't know who said any of this because I listen and read too much about manifestation, but every single person is always manifesting. It's just a matter of, are you being conscious about it? Are you looking at that childhood? Are you looking at that early programming? And are you kind of unblocking it and working on it or working through it and allowing yourself to be conscious about what you're manifesting? Or are you allowing like that to run the show? And so for me too, going in and doing these meditations where I find what is the wound and then I create a positive affirmation for that wound. And I love affirmations. I do them in the car. I do them like when I'm sleeping. I do them all the time. And that was a big part of my early manifestation journey as well, was affirmations, because the way I like to describe it is like we all have our programming that's running 24/7 in the background. And it's like we've all been through some stuff. And so you reach a certain point of life and you have this programming that your brain goes to without even thinking about it. It's subconscious of, oh man, what if it doesn't work out? Oh man, I don't like that. Or it's all the negative stuff. And when I practiced affirmations, all of a sudden it's like I had this alternate programming that my brain could go to. And it was like, it would trip me out for a minute because my brain would like start to go to the negative one, but then remember the positive affirmations I had said. And it would be like, oh wait, what if we just stay over here in the positive affirmation? And so it's like my brain really got rewired to go to the positive affirmations as opposed to all of the negative programming.
That's so beautiful. And I wish I could say that I was like that I did that more. And I'm gonna use this as like a note, side note, or to just remember to do that more and to dive into the affirmations, because that really is you reprogramming the neural pathways in real time and actively doing it. So that's really amazing. And I'm noted. I'm gonna start doing that a little bit
Okay.
more. I've dabbled, but I don't think I've been so intense about it in the way you
Yeah,
obviously it works
totally.
where you are.
Yes.
That's Ashley's my idol. I look at her and I'm like, I want my business to
Oh,
run like her. It's like it's just she's so good at what she does, and you're not tooting your horn good enough or loud enough because like you just hit an insane number on your YouTube channel this week?
50,000 subscribers.
Thousand.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's good. It's amazing.
Thank
Like
you.
you are doing all of the things and you're doing it so amazing. And it is a testament to the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And that's something that I really love to share with people. And this came from a teacher that I am currently diving into in terms of the manifestation. I got you hooked on her too. It was Regan Hillier. Yeah. So guys, definitely go check out her work. I think she has a course through Mind Valley, but then she
Mhm.
also has her own courses on her website, I think. But the one thing that really stuck out for me that she says a lot in all of her teachings is that anything that you want, like 80% of the work is the inner work and
Mhm.
20% is what you do in the real world. And that the effort is not about the strategy. It's not about all of the millions of things that you're doing and how hard you're grinding and how many sleepless nights you're having and how many hours you're putting into it. In
Yes.
fact, it's actually quite the opposite. It's how much time are you putting into doing the inner work and reprogramming? I don't even think she talks too much about reprogramming, but just doing the inner work. And then all of the other stuff, it's one little baby step, right? That is
Yes.
so much more effective and efficient, right?
I feel like this is a lesson that I feel like I'm getting it now, but like the universe has been like throwing in my face in the last couple of years for sure. It doesn't have to be this. It's not a grind. Like it's not this like you grind and then you get it. In fact, like I feel like what the universe shows me in a funny and humorous way is the more I do that, the less successful I am. And the more I just flow with ease, like the easier it is. And I can give you an example if you want to, but
Share it. Do it.
yeah. So over Black Friday in 2024, I for the first time was going to do like a Black Friday week where it was like every single day there would be a new deal. And I got into, I have to hit this revenue goal for the end of the year. And I have these ideas that I really want to create that I think would make really great courses. And so I like flushed out this whole Black Friday thing. I wrote all the sales emails. It was a ton of work. Like, because everything was new and I was selling a couple of things I already had, but I literally made 3 new offers. Okay. 3 new offers, including 2 new courses. Okay. And then one was like a repurpose of other stuff, which like looking back, I'm like, what was I doing? This was crazy. But I did that. And I kid you not, of the 3 new offers that I made, one of them sold 4, 2 of them sold 0.
Mhm.
0. And at this point, like my email list was like 4 to 5,000. Like it should have sold. Like I should have
Right.
sold 1. I sold 0. And I was like, in the moment, I was frustrated and mad. And then like, 2 weeks later, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I get it. I think that was like the final iteration of me understanding this lesson of I hustled. I went to the grind. I like put in so many hours. I created these new things that I thought people wanted. And I didn't sell any of them, and it was all for nothing. Not for nothing. Like, they'll sell eventually, like, I'll repurpose them or whatever.
Yeah.
But then, more recently, and I was thinking back to Black Friday just recently because I hit 50,000 subscribers last weekend, and I had this idea. And I had the idea 4 or 5 days before I was gonna hit 50,000 subscribers, and so it was a little bit crazy, but I had this idea, "Oh my gosh, I should do 50 piano lessons for $50," because I have hundreds of hours of recorded content that nobody has ever seen because it's inside of a high ticket program that I have. And I was like, but it would be crazy. Like, I'd have to stay up late and put all these videos together and edit them. But I just felt so excited about it. I was like, it'd be such a fun way to celebrate. Like, I feel like people would really love it. And it just felt right. It just felt right. It was an idea that I got on a whim. It felt right. So I just did it. And I stayed up one night. I got it all done. It took me like 4 hours. And I wrote the emails quickly, didn't agonize over them. I sold 300 of them.
Whoa.
This is the most I've ever sold of anything. And you guys, this offer was like, I literally didn't create anything for it. I just took videos I already had and packaged them into this new thing. And I sold like 300 of one thing, is because I have done a lot of high ticket in the past, is like by far the most I've ever sold of anything. And so it was just such a good, I was like, okay, I see you, universe. I'm getting the flow now. I'm getting how this energy works. It's not hustle. It's not about that. And in fact, when you just like work from this place of flow and inspired action, Reagan Hillier says that's when it happens.
Yeah. And this is such a perfect segue into sort of the intuitive development journey you've been going on as well. Because I would like to maybe point out that possibly that feeling of this is the thing and I'm excited by it and it lit my whole body up and like it feels easy and in flow. My guess is it was an intuitive download.
Totally. Yeah.
Yes.
100%. And it was the kind that like, that what everybody says, it's like, it would not leave my mind. Like I kept being like, no, it's too much work. And it would just pop back into my mind. And it was so loud, like to the point, it was such an intuitive download that I was like, okay, I feel like guides are screaming this at me. Like they're not going to let me not do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is this is the thing that whenever I have people on this podcast, there's one theme that we always discover, which is that if it's meant for you, your spirit guides are relentless. They will not stop bothering you about it and sending you messages until you do the thing, right?
Mhm.
They're going to make it known and sing it from the rooftops, and it's going to keep coming back. And as much as you ignore it, it's always going to come back. It's always going to come back until you do the thing. And so whether you have to learn it the hard way or you just listen the first time is up to you. But at the end of the day, you're going to do it. So you may as well just listen the first
Yes.
I have such a funny example of that, and it's such a random one, and I still don't know why. Sometimes and this is also a thing. Like sometimes our spirit guide give us messages, and we're like, "Why? Like, why is this so important to you, spirit guide?" And so I'm in one of those right now, which is that, and I told you this yesterday. I think 7 different people on 7 different occasions messaged me in the same week, telling me that I needed to listen to this particular podcast called the Telepathy Tapes, and like, I was like,
I
and
was
when I
one of
heard it the
them.
first day, you were one of them? You were one of them? And like, it was some clients of mine, like actually a bunch of clients, some random people on Instagram, just random people just messaging me in my inbox, Jessica, you need to listen to this. Okay, all right. Like, I don't have time to listen to this. Like, when do I have time to listen to a podcast? I'm busy running a business and taking care of 2 babies. And I like ignored the first 5 times. And then when it got to 7 times, like, okay, spirit guide, I hear you. All right, I'll listen to the podcast already.
Yes.
And I'm only 4 episodes in, but I think I can see why my guides are sharing it with me. There's definitely something to exploring this theme of telepathy. So, 2 content to come, guys. I'll let you know once I get to the end of that, what that will look like and what that means. But it's just so interesting, right? Spirit guides, they won't stop. They just
Yeah.
don't.
Totally.
So that's
Yes.
amazing. But that being said, so sorry, rewind. That was just a little side note there. But intuitive development has now become your next level up, I would say. And I know that we've been doing some work together and I've been coaching you a little bit, which is so fun to be on the other side, right? I'm so used to being your student. So it's fun to have something to offer to you. But what we've discovered in just a few sessions that we've had together in channeling spirit guides and loved one is that, wow, you're talented. Like it came through so easily and it comes through so strong and easy. So can you share a little bit about that journey? First of all, what finally brought you to the point of you're like, okay, I need to do this?
Mhm.
And what's that felt like as you've been trying to develop your intuition?
Yeah. First of all, thank you. It's been really really powerful and cool to explore. And honestly, I think it was like right place, right time, right? Like there were a couple of different things that all came together at the same time. But basically it's like people had recommended a certain class to me and I looked up the class and I didn't sign up for it. And I knew that eventually I would probably do coaching with you, but it just nothing felt like it was the right time. And this woman recommended like a mediumship class to me. And she had already recommended it months earlier, but I was like, okay, let me look it up. And I look it up and the time aligned exactly with my schedule. And I was like, I'm doing it. Just in that moment, it was like, it aligned, it works, I'm doing it. And so I think it was just like, we do things and we find things when they are the right time for us. And I think that was part of it was like, I had to go through a certain amount of unlocking and a certain amount of overcoming my own objections and my own fear and my own issues, right? I was doing like baby steps. And then when we had a session and we decided that I would do coaching with you too, I was like, it's just the time. Like it just feels like the next right step. And I've thought about this many times and I'm so glad that I waited because I think for a long time, I really approached spirituality from a logical standpoint, which obviously didn't get me super far. But it's like there was so much wonderful information out there. Like I would listen to stuff about the 5 different types of clairs or whatever, and I would get confused about, okay, what does that mean? What does that feel like? And I was like really trying to like think about all of it. But as soon as I started doing this mediumship class and the psycho development class and the students, you and I started working together, it was like, oh, it's something obviously you have to experience, right? Like you have to actually experience it. And I know you say this all the time, but I didn't realize until I experienced it too. Once you have someone to practice on, and I feel like it shouldn't be this hard of a thing. But when I started trying to give other people psychic readings and channel other people's loved ones and now spirit guides, it's so much easier. It's so much easier because I'm completely objective. It's especially when it's strangers. Like I don't have any skin in the game of if it is right or wrong or whatever. I can remain open and I can give them the information and then they can confirm it or not. And so I think, yeah, that's how it's evolved for me. And now that I'm doing it, I can see I am learning through channeling for other people, like how much I communicate with my guide and how looking back over my entire life, like there is so much that I think has been channeled because I'm claircognizant that I just didn't know that's what was happening. And specifically like around music, there's been so much that I think is this feeling of being in the flow and of performing music at a high level. Like it's the exact same feeling that I get when I'm channeling. It's like that. Like I couldn't repeat it. I couldn't tell you exactly how I do it, but it happened. And so it's just been really cool now to look back and have that hindsight and to be experiencing it in a different way.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. And it's so true because I definitely believe that any type of creative endeavor is always an intuitive download. Like it's coming through you. And it's this energy. It's like there's a portal of light like sitting over the top of your head. And God, the universe, your spirit guides, whatever, they're like just dumping it into you because it's like what needs to be like that form of expression or whatever's coming out is what is going to serve the world in a bigger way. And it serves you as well. And I remember even like when I was a kid, I listened to, they used to have like authors come to our school to share about the creative writing process and whatever. And
Yeah.
I remember this one particular author saying, it feels like I have a waste basket sitting over my head and God just drops some notes in there and then they light me up and it's all I can do but write it down and it becomes a story, right? And then when I think about artists, right? Like when they are coming up with what to paint, they like don't necessarily have this plan in their head. They're like, I'm just gonna get in flow and
Yeah.
see what comes through. And then I imagine I am definitely no musician, but I imagine that once you're just playing and it's coming through you, like there's a point where you're just in the zone and you don't have to think about it, but it's just coming through you and out of you. And right, it's just this life force that's coming through, and you are just the vessel for it at some point.
Hmm.
So I'm really glad that you underlined that. And the other thing I really want to highlight here, which is something that I share a lot on this podcast, is that once you actually have the experience of tapping into your intuition, or if you will, channeling your guides or loved ones, if you will, you then suddenly realize, oh, I've been doing this my whole life. And I didn't know that's what that was called. And I think that this is what people really need to know. We always have this, and this is maybe Hollywood's issue, created this story of what mediumship really looks like. And
Yeah.
it's very sensationalized, right? That it's like this thing outside of yourself that an apparition's going to come or your whole body's going to break down, or like the Long Island medium and she gets really anxious and she can't handle herself in the grocery store, but she has to tell the person by the produce section that their loved one is here. And it's doesn't look like that, and
Mhm.
definitely not even for the Long Island medium. Like, they do it for the drama in the
Mhm.
shows, but it really is this thing that, like, it's in the background and it's subtle, and yes, it lights you up, but it's not this big out-of-body experience. It's something
Yeah.
that's always been there, and then when you learn to recognize that this was something you were always doing and that you can tap back into that anytime you want, right? You just have to
Mhm.
remember what it feels like in the first place. That's when it all like clicks for everybody. So
Yeah.
I'm so glad you've gotten to that place.
Me too. It's so much it feels so much more flowy than trying to, like, logically approach it or study it. Cause and it's so funny because I mean, I encounter this all the time with people I coach. It's like people will, like, spend years reading about music, and I'm like, "At a certain point, you actually have to sit down and play." That's really the only way you can truly actually learn it is to do it. And so I think that it's the same. And one other thing I'll say, if it's okay with you, just because I think I've been sharing this a lot with, like, people in my personal life, and I think it's so profound. I think the other thing that has really happened since channeling for other people and trying to do psychic readings and stuff like that is there's a really big element of trusting, period. There's just a really big element of trusting, and it becomes impossible to gaslight yourself, if that makes sense. So it's like when I am trying to read for other people, it to me, it doesn't feel like this perfect science. It's still very scary. It's still very imperfect, but I know that I just have to say what pops into my head because that's what it is. It's not like a big profound thing like you said, it's not sensationalized. It's literally sometimes just like thoughts that pop into my head, and once I start speaking to the thoughts, they more comes. But if I take that thought that pops into my head and say, "No, that's dumb," or "No, that can't be true," and I don't say it out loud, I'm totally blocked and I can't channel at all. And I think that being able to do that for someone else has really made me recognize how much I did that for myself. Of we all know, like we have those gut feelings. We know we have that first thought, even when someone asks you a question and they're like, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" And instantly, and you're like, "Oh, I don't care, whatever you want." And it's like, no, that's not true. You know what you want. You just gaslit yourself, right? Like you just totally bypassed that. And so I think channeling for other people has also really helped me develop this relationship, like with trusting myself and trusting that guidance that comes down for me and honoring it and being truthful about it and like allowing it to take up a lot more space, which allows for so much more authenticity. So now I'm like, every woman specifically needs to learn how to do this.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. And I couldn't have said it better myself. That was so beautiful. And it's so true that the process of wanting to channel, right? Like it's almost, and this is becoming the theme of this episode, I'm learning is that like, it's almost like the pursuit of one thing becomes the healing of something else.
Totally. Yeah.
So yes, sure. Go on the spiritual journey. Try and connect with your guides, but at the end of the day, if it results in self-love, like all the better, right?
Mhm. Totally.
I love that so much. There's one other thing that I do want to bring up here, which we tiptoed around just a little bit, which
Okay.
is that you talked about how in your childhood, like in even in your young adulthood, there have been a lot of instances of maybe mediumship or channeling that maybe you ignored or you were scared of. But something else that we've also really discovered in channeling for each other is that this is not just from this lifetime for you.
Yes.
Right? This lifetime is like a culmination of all of your previous lifetimes and you fulfilling some seriously unfinished business and some karma, if you will, from past
Mhm.
lives. Do you remember some other sessions? Do you want to share a little bit about that or
Sure.
to jump into? But
Yeah. Are you talking specifically about the one with my daughter?
yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can share about that one because that one really it sticks out so much. So, do you want me to give like a little bit of backstory of what I asked you and what came through?
Sure, because I
Okay.
don't remember what you asked. I remember the
Yeah.
past life because it was very distinct. But
Okay.
yeah, go
I'll keep
ahead.
it short just because I find it so fascinating. So, my daughter in this current lifetime is like very witchy. I'll just say that she's very witchy and she seems to know what to do with all of that. When I started like telling her like, oh, let's make like an altar for the new moon or an altar for the full moon, like she will do stuff. She'll just go grab a red scarf and she'll be like, I'm going to put the red scarf on the altar because red is for love. And she doesn't, nobody has told her this. I have never told her these things. Like she just does this stuff. Or when I told her we were going to have an ancestor dinner, like she went and got photos of all of the dogs that she knows that has passed away and just brought, she knew what ancestor meant. You know what I mean? Like she just knows stuff. And so I came into a session with you one time and I was asking, tell me about witchiness because I feel a big call to these like rituals and practices, like all for the sake of the good of greater humanity. But I'm feeling really called to like actually, I don't know, do spells and like work with candles and crystals and all this stuff. And you were like, okay. And you told me that in a past life, like, I had done this before. Like, this was not my first life where I had been interested in these things. And I'd been researching like genealogy a lot to see if I had any connection to like the witch trials and things like that. And you said it's not about like past relatives that have been in the witch trials, but it's about you yourself, that you had a life where you did consider yourself a witch, and where I would, I guess, you said you were very clear on, it's not that I used witchcraft for evil, but it was like that I would kind of allow people to believe what they wanted to believe, right? And so I would maybe be a little bit like sassy about it. And if someone was afraid of me, I wouldn't correct them. And then when I asked you, I didn't give you any of this information about my daughter before the session, but I said, what does my daughter have to do with this? And you said, oh, she was your mom. She was your mom in that lifetime, and you guys did this together. And that was just like so powerful and potent. And so many things clicked together in that moment because it was just the perfect illustration of everything that is happening now in this current life. And it all made sense, like in that instant when you said that.
Yeah, and there was a lot of, if I remember correctly, there was a lot about how like you diving into all of this stuff in this lifetime was like a reconciliation of how you had approached it in the past life, right? Like in the past
Yeah.
life, you were happy to let people be scared of you, and it was a little bit more of a flex, I would say, of let me
Yes.
scare you. Versus in this lifetime, it's like really stepping into this is who I am, and like allowing again yourself to be the lighthouse and show people
Mhm.
that this can be used for good. And this theme that always comes up with you, and you even said it yourself so beautifully, is you really are here to show people that you can manipulate your reality, right? And you can manipulate it for good or for bad. The choice is up to you, right? It all depends on the stories that you're telling yourself, right? And what that looks like. And so this really is a lifetime where not only do you not use it for yourself and to really manifest the big things and dive into the big things, but also this feeling of, and you can too, right? And share
Yes.
with other people, this is a good thing, right? Come into my world. Don't be scared of me. Come and join me.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's so beautiful to see. And I really wanted to bring this up because a lot of the times when we do have a calling towards this type of stuff, the woo woo, the fringe stuff, the manifestation, all of the things, which thankfully nowadays I would say it's actually not so fringe anymore. I
Yeah.
would say it's becoming a lot more commonplace. But usually, if you're willing to step even deeper, because I would argue that still mediumship is still considered a little bit more out there than manifestation practices, if you will.
Totally. Yeah.
You're definitely still on the fringe.
Yeah.
And I do think that if you have some sort of calling, like I think that most people who listen to this podcast do, chances are this is not your first rodeo. And instead of going, I'm new and I'm a baby at this and I'm just trying to learn from scratch, it's can I even, as you so beautifully pointed out, call in a past version of myself, connect with them, and let the wisdom come through the former version of myself, right? Remember how to do it. Don't learn it from scratch here. And I think that as the more that you've been stepping into this, the more like that version of yourself is coming through and also healing at the same time.
Yeah. Totally. Definitely the healing for sure. And I think it does. It feels like a remembering. And I've had lots of people say, go towards the things that like excite you. And it was manifesting money for a while. That was the little gateway. And then it was crystals, and then it was oracle decks. And there's been like all these little things that have led me now, I feel like, to where I am, connecting with guides and starting to practice channeling for others. And it feels okay, it's a remembering for sure.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful, beautiful and amazing. I could literally talk to you for another hour about all of this
Yes.
stuff.
Likewise.
You're definitely my go-to person to geek out on all of this stuff with. But is there any last thing that you would love to share with the listeners, or just any kind of hint, nugget of wisdom that you have within you that I didn't get to ask you that maybe you'd like to share?
I guess I would just love to share with your listeners, because I feel like I listened to your podcast, and I listened to so many podcasts where I would hear people say, oh, I'm doing readings for other people. And I don't know, feel like they had something I didn't have, or that there was some key that I wasn't getting. But it really is as simple as Jessica said, right? It's about practicing with other people. I think that is one of the most important things you can do, is just get yourself in a room on Zoom and try reading for someone else. You don't need anything. Like, I didn't feel like I had anything the first time I did that, and I was scared out of my pants. But I just did it. I just tried it and was like, all right, what do I have to lose? And that has really unlocked everything. So I would say that. And then also like the practice of it. Like I said, practicing with other people, but really just like the practice. Like, it's not about reading the books. It's not about listening listen to Jessica's podcast always, but it's not about consuming all the content. It's about like creating the space to actually meditate, creating the space to actually do the things. And so I think like Jessica has so many wonderful ways that we can all do that and is so good at teaching that. But that's really where it is. That's really what will move the needle.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, always acting as my business coach and looking at my business at the same time.
But it's true. It's so true.
Join us in the intuition activation community, people.
Yes. Yes.
Coming
Do
back.
it. And practice with someone. It's never going to feel like it won't. Jessica, you tell me all the time, like it never feels like you know everything. It's never going to get to that point. It's just, I tell piano players that all the time, like performing that you never get less nervous, right? You just
No.
get uncomfortable being uncomfortable and you just do it.
Yeah, you just do it. And thank you for sharing that. Like, really, it is like you don't have to be like this special person that you had this ability for your whole life. Guys, we're all special. We all had this ability for our whole lives. Just not all of us realized it that young.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's fine, right? But you just have to do it. Just do it. The clarity comes from practice, from doing
Yes.
the things. So thank you for underlining that and highlighting for people that you can do it too. If I could figure it out and Ashlee could figure it out, we're just regular people who just decided to practice one day.
And 4 months of like actual practice, I feel I've made 10 years of what I was trying to do before, like of just actually doing the thing.
And guys, it does happen that like it
Mhm.
really is like within a couple of weeks, you're like, oh my God, like I channeled something that actually meant something to someone else. Like
Yeah.
within 2 weeks, usually. It doesn't
Yeah.
actually take that long. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting out of your own way and just daring to be wrong, daring to just give it a go as it is when you try anything new.
Totally.
So thank you for sharing that. This
Yeah.
has been so amazing and so beautiful. Where can everybody find you? And yeah, tell us all of your platforms and social media things so that everybody,
Sure.
if they want to connect with you more, you also have an amazing podcast, which isn't only about teaching piano. So please.
Yeah. I am Ashlee Young Music Studio on Instagram and on YouTube. You won't see any of this on there, but you will see a lot of piano stuff. But I'm always like in my DMs. So if anybody wants to connect, Instagram would probably be the best way. Ashlee Young Piano Studio, and it's ASHLEE, just so people can find it.
Yeah, awesome. And guys, go listen to her podcast too. She talks a lot about business development as well.
Yes, that's called The Prosperous Piano Teacher.
Yeah, yes, it's so good. So definitely go and check her out over there, and we'll link it all in the show notes. So yeah, this has been so beautiful, and thank you so much, Ashlee, for being here. It's really been so fun.
Yes, thanks for having me. This is wonderful.